Hey guys, welcome back to Forge. My name's Paul, and well, we have had a lot of Unearthed Arcana lately. So, after looking through all of the UA options that have come out for, I think a total of 6 different classes now, we're going to be going through them in more specific builds for probably 4 out of 6 of the subclasses, but this video is going to address the Barbarian and the Monk subclasses, the Wild Soul and the Astral Self. And they're both going to be covered in this video because I personally didn't think that they warranted builds. Now, I'll go over the subclasses themselves and give you some general tips for playing them and my opinion on them. But overall, I didn't see anything defining about the subclasses that you could really build a character around. So, we'll get cracking with the overview with the Wild Soul Barbarian. Now, I do like some of what this brings. Third level, you're going to get Detect Magic, which lets you use your Constitution modifier for both the spellcasting stat and for how much you can do it per day. Now, we've seen Constitution as a casting stat, I believe, with the Genasi. I believe at the very least the Fire Genasi uses it for things like Burning Hands. And then you also get this Wild Surge ability. This is, I guess it's really the spirit of the subclass, but I also think it's the biggest problem. So basically, any time you rage, and you're going to be raging, I think twice per long rest at this point, you're going to roll on this table, and you're going to get one of these effects. So, the saving throws key off of your Constitution modifier, so the subclass really does emphasize that. So overall for this, I would say this is probably a subclass you'd go for maybe your unarmored defense, since you're pumping that con maybe more than you would normally. But I think it's just a little bit too busy. Like every time you start combat, you're going to roll initiative, you're going to rage, you're going to roll for your effect. For most of them you're going to roll damage, and for some of them you roll other things. The effects themselves are pretty good. First one, you get to do AoE necrotic damage and you gain 10 hit points. That's very good. Some of them are repeating, some like that are just the first instance of rage that you get that effect. The second one is kind of an ongoing teleport that you can use as a bonus action, kind of akin to like a Barbarian's Far Step. Number 3 is, I guess, meant to be wacky and fun. You conjure 1d4 intangible spirits that look like Flumphs. It would be such a pain to use that. So you roll a d8 to decide what effect you get. You get a 3. So roll another 1d4, then decide what random direction they're to go in, and then roll another 2d8 for your bonus action. 3, maybe 4 die rolls for a bonus action is a bit excessive. And this, I'm just not a fan of that ability overall, really. This one, number 4, you get a plus to your AC, and you get to do extra reaction damage based on your con modifier. Difficult terrain for number 5. Now, just to clarify, this would affect you, because you're essentially running into your own terrain. I can see some DMs ruling that it doesn't affect you, and I don't see it being a particularly big deal either way. But that's a particularly interesting one if you want to play a sticky tank. But again, these are random. 6. So, wisdom saving throw, which from a barbarian, you wouldn't really expect. But it's a one and done that gives disadvantage on attack rolls. I would personally either rather you get to pick, maybe once per day you pick, or if you didn't want to go that far, if you wanted to maintain the wildness of it, maybe at the beginning of every day you roll this die and you pick your rage for the day. That way it's taken out of combat and it would just be a little neater to play. The rest, overall they're pretty good abilities. there's nothing that's really, apart from the Flumphs, which could seriously injure you and your party. There's nothing here that you'd really go for and think, oh no, I rolled an 8 or 1 or whatever. 4 is really the only kind of number you can roll. Now number 6 is something that's open to a certain kind of power gaming abuse. You can roll a d4, touch a creature, and this is an action, and if they're a spellcaster, they regenerate a spent slot equal to the number rolled. If they can't regenerate that specific number slot, they get temp hit points equal to 5 times the number. And then when you go to 14th, this becomes a d6. I can't see this ability making it into publication without being tweaked, primarily because there is no way in the game currently, either from Arcane Recovery or Font of Magic, from the Sorcerer and the Wizard, that lets you regenerate a 6th level slot, whereas this does. Can't see that making it in. And when it's basically unlimited, as it is now, you could be giving spell slots to a healer that could then heal you. I think the biggest culprit for that is Guardian, the Guardian healing spell. I think this should really be restricted maybe to either a creature can benefit from this feature once per long rest, or you can do this a number of times per day equal to your con modifier. If they did that, then I think this would be perfectly balanced. As it is currently, I think the mages will be looking at your injuries thinking, sure, you can go one more time, we need more spell slots, which you may or may not like. I think this would get old real quick if I was playing this paladin. Arcane Rebuke, you get a little bit of reaction damage. Now, this is any time you make a saving throw. It consumes a reaction, but it's not limited to number of times per day, so if you're fighting a creature that provokes a lot of them, maybe you're fighting, I don't know, a pack of, it's a bit high level for wolves, but a creature like wolves that would force a saving throw on an attack, then you'll be dealing quite a lot of force damage. Pretty good ability. And 14th level, as a bonus action, you can reroll on the Wild Surge table. In theory, you could roll on this table every single time, every turn, get something new. And that does really hit that wild, unpredictable nature of things. The Flumphs still exist, but it really lets you take advantage of the one and done aspects of it, so it's not a bad ability. Very reminiscent of Sorcerer. Overall for this subclass, I don't really feel like, apart from a thematic multi-class into a wild Sorcerer, there's nothing that you can really build around here. It's all random effects or side abilities. There's nothing that you can define and build your character around like you can with, say, going full out tank with the bear totem, or going perhaps making the most of that bonus action attack as a berserker. It would be fun. I would probably say more for a one shot than anything else. I think the Goliath would probably be a stellar race for this, just because there's nothing here saying that you can't reduce the damage that you take from magic reserves. So the Goliath's ability to reduce damage could come in handy there, help alleviate the burden of healing you. So, cracking on to the Astral Self, it's an interesting one, I'll give it that. Early on, I think the Astral Self really suffers from being kind of okay but underpowered for most of its career, and I think it's level 11 that it just kind of goes, oh yeah, we have things, and it goes to 11 out of 10 really quickly. This is essentially a subclass based around summoning your astral self into the physical world and using aspects of that astral self as weapons or boons. So the first ability you get is for 2 key points. You get to summon these arms that essentially let you do a different type of damage with reach and use wisdom. So, in theory, this allows you to focus on wisdom over dex as a monk, which is great. You know, it allows you to really pump that save DC for stunning strike, and with the reach on the arms, it really helps you pull off stunning strikes to multiple enemies without provoking attacks of opportunity. But it's not really good enough in my eyes. Like, sure, you get a different damage type, you get reach, but that's it. I mean, this third bullet point is essentially just meaning that you can use your martial arts. After you take the attack action, you can make an extra attack, so martial arts. And then when you hit level 11, this is when it gets interesting. Level 11 basically means that you have Flurry of Blows constantly online. And that's when the power scale for this tips. Because this only takes 2 key points for 10 minutes, so you could easily do this out of combat and possibly get 2 combats in that time. And once you hit that, you're getting a net key return, kind of key that you would be spending on Flurry for damage output, you could now be using just on Stunning Strike, or something else, whatever other key ability you want to use. Not Step of the Wind, also bonus action. But then at 17th level it goes to 3, which gives you 5 standard attacks. Which at this point, I'm sorry, that's kind of just stepping on the fighter's toes in my opinion, but all the power to this monk, I guess. This later evolves into the Astral Self, where you get the visage or the mask, the face, whatever you want to say. And it basically gives you Devil Sight. I've got nothing against that. Putting that ability into some other things. It's higher gated than the Warlock's ability, and you have advantage on Insight and Intimidation. That's pretty solid, and I like the way that they let you stack this so you can summon this at the same time. I think that's a nice feature. So level 6, I don't really have a problem with. It doesn't really seem particularly powerful of an increase, but it's not too bad overall. Level 11, you power up your Super Saiyan mode even further. This effectively changes deflect arrows into deflect pretty much anything ranged, and this rips off an ability that the Kensei monk gets for free. As a Kensei monk, you can spend ki once per turn to do a mini smite, and if you're in your powered up form as an Astral Self monk, you get that for free. Word of the Spirit, basically you can message somebody or Thaumaturgy yell. I like that, it builds on more of an RP aspect. Deflect energy is also pretty cool. Empowered arms, it just steps on the Kensei. Complete Astral Self. This is a tier 4 ability, so I guess we should be going for the gonzo crazy stuff, so I think it hits that. So you spend 10 ki and you get your arms, visage and your entire body for 10 minutes. So you're going to get +2 to AC whilst you're not incapacitated. I like that. I don't think this ends if you're incapacitated. Yeah. So I guess I would have preferred if they actually made this one stronger. Since your Astral Self isn't tied to your physical self, that would have been nice if it was just +2 to AC. This is where things get ridiculous. So now you're making 6 attacks per turn for just being in this form. And remember, with Empowered Arms, you're throwing an extra martial arts die on top of that. And to be even more ridiculous, you're going to get ki back. So you can wade into a horde of enemies with your bonus to AC. stunning strike all of them, smiting on whoever you wish, essentially, gaining back your key points, and just repeating the process as your allies go around, smacking your stunned enemies. It really does go from, well, this is kind of neat, to, oh my god, I'm a windmill of death. Whilst it's certainly thematically a more unique playstyle than other monks, this is certainly a lot different when you imagine what's happening in your head. But mechanically, this doesn't actually allow you to do anything different enough to build for it, which is why it's lumped in this video. Yes, you can focus more on wisdom than dex, but you still need dex for level 1 and 2 if you're playing those levels out for your attacks. Dex saves are still really common, and usually to avoid nasty damage. You have evasion, which kind of helps with that, but still. And it's used for initiative. So, and your AC. You still need dex for your AC. If you want to hit your capstone of 20, 22 with your Astral Self when you get to 17th level, you still need dex, and it doesn't tip the scale far enough to really be meaningful. So you might want to think about playing something like a Turtle. It doesn't get that dex bump, but as long as you have your dex high enough, then you're going to have a 17 AC regardless, which you can bump to 20. Not 20, 19 with the Armor of the Spirit. Overall, if you're going for like a druid multiclass or a cleric multiclass maybe, where you really want to emphasize that wisdom, then it would facilitate that to some degree. But both of these subclasses, whilst they don't really suffer the power creep that you sometimes get in Unearthed Arcana, I don't feel like there's anything defining about them for us to really make a build for this channel. And I did try, but it just felt like, let's make a monk and a barbarian build, and you could apply it to pretty much any of the build out there and just swap out the subclasses. I think it would be interesting if both of these saw publication. They would definitely need tweaks. I really hope that the Astral Self doesn't see publication if it gets that number of attacks, because it basically takes away the only thing that the fighter gets. And worst of all, as that's a 17th level ability, you could still slap 2 levels of fighter on here, and action surge for what, 9 attacks? So yeah, overall it's fun. Like, if you want a theatre of the mind, these subclasses, they would be really, really evocative to play. But this time we couldn't come up with something that warranted videos for these. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of a ramble. We haven't done a video in a little while, so a little bit rusty, but rest assured, for all of the other UAs, and I'm sure that Wizards is putting one out as I say this, we will have builds for. I think the next one will be a Psionicist build, which will be interesting, not using the Mystic. But hopefully you guys will enjoy what we have coming out soon. Give us a like, share, comment and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you think of these subclasses. Do you think that we're wrong? Do you think that there is a unique enough build out of this to make? If so, do you want us to take a crack at your idea? But whether you like it, whether you didn't, let us know in the comments so we can get better with you, and we will see you next time.